Caddis Maximus here. This time I'm reviewing the 3/8" stubby 100-tooth Duralast ratchet. It's based on a gear wrench design. The cut to the short of it, I think it's a neat little ratchet. It's like $23.50, just under $24. And these are replacing all of Duralast tools. They are, at least in my store, they don't even stock any of the sets or any of these older ratchets. It kind of proves a point that you can have a lifetime warranty, but if they change the tools on you, then it's a little bit diminished. I generally don't like this ratchet because it really has a poor fit and finish. It's actually worse than it's like a cheapened version of a gear wrench. Anyway, it appears that Autozone is getting rid of these older 36-tooth Williams. What we've determined is basically these are made contract by Williams. And these are now just in sets and a couple comfort grips, mainly online. In my stores, they've totally gotten rid of all these old style ratchets. And the end of this is, as far as running to a store, a lot of Harbor Freight's around, I'd recommend this Icon, the straight handle Icons, not the Flex, but this Icon stubby really is pretty nice. I did an Icon versus Icon video where I discussed the internals. The reasons that I don't like this is, one, we can see like the knurling, it just wasn't completed there. They do have a bigger switch on this, but has a really light spring, and if you're trying to manipulate this in tight situations, you're going to be accidentally hitting that switch more often than you probably realize, and it'll add to frustration. The anvil is forged, but it isn't machined, and they machine anvils on nicer ratchets just so they have a much nicer fit and finish. You can see that here. These ratchets, you can see the little lines from when they're machined and just a really nice geometry on them. So that makes it a little bit cheaper. If we twist it around here, the little detent here is just not, it's okay, but it's really pretty almost overstamped and not properly centered. And then if we look at anvil play here, it's just all over the place. And it pulls in and out. One of the reasons I'm not a fan of the gear wrench is because of the way they use a snap ring design that uses more of the space inside the ratchet to get the undercut, the snap ring, and then it means they use a thin bottom plate. I've always been fond of more traditional ratchets like this because you just have one thick bottom plate. They do this to eliminate screws, and the head actually is indeed shorter than either the Icon, but only a tiny amount, and maybe, just another small amount to the old one. But for those sacrifices, I just don't have a lot of confidence in how long this is going to last. And all that play really adds to that because it sounds nice, but as soon as you're in a situation where you're just bending down on it a little bit, it's like it's better that way, but this way, it just sounds like it's grinding down on those little ratchet pawls. Or I believe this is just a single floating ratchet. Let's go ahead and actually take a look inside this thing. We'll pop that little snap ring out. There we go. And it's easier if they're on the pegs deeper when you're pulling it off, and we'll just drop that plate. We can see it really is a gear wrench. There's our little O-ring under the anvil, but it flops around so much I can't see how that would hold up super great. Had to get a nice angle in the light. And indeed, it's using like the XP 120 tooth design, which is a twin floating split pawls. And so how they're trying to compensate is, you can see that this is actually a 50 tooth ratchet, but with two sets of offset pawls adding up to making an equivalent of 100 teeth. When you put a lot of torque on it, what happens is that one set of pawls will end up aligning with the one on the bottom to try to give you a little more strength. So it's overall, the design isn't bad. It's just that the tolerances of the plate and inside the whole ratchet are so loose that now that anvil is rocking back and forth and not giving you full engagement. It's going to be increased wear, and it's going to end up slipping on you, even if they do have the neat little twin pawl design in there. Even the snap ring, I compressed it a little bit too much, but it really bent. I had to pull it back out and spread it back apart just so it wouldn't be loose in there, which wasn't good. So this is a 100-tooth twin pawl gear wrench design, and I guess they're reserving the 120-tooth just for gear wrench branded tools. They just definitely need a stronger switch, and I understand why it's so soft now is because they got two pawls and there's only space for two small little springs. It's just unfortunately, tooth count doesn't literally equate to strength and longevity of a ratchet. You know, I'll still preach these. We'll just call them the Williams 36 tooths. The switch is definitely stiff, but you're not going to accidentally be bumping this. Super durable. It's tons of YouTube videos nowadays. If you look, people bouncing up and down on these old Duralasts. But Harbor Freight came out with these Icon 90 tooths, and I've taken this apart, and once again, the Icon versus Icon video, and really a pretty nice design on these straight tooths. Really pretty heavy duty, a very large pawl that's inside there, and that's what I'm going to end up really recommending. There's certainly plenty of other brands that are out there, but and it's a shame what happened with the Icon flex heads, how they just went with a different supplier on the flex heads and they just weren't the same ratchets. But these straight handles, sometimes they come with a little too much grease and the pawl will actually get stuck. So if you have any issues, I ran into that with this one. You actually just have to clean out some of the grease. But, you know, getting back to tight anvils, this is really what you expect out of a pear head, is to be able to really press back and forth and have that thing feel like it's just nice and tight in there. And of course the new one is not even close to the old one either, which was also a really nice tight anvil with, of course, dual O-rings. There are an O-ring in the switch on the Icon as well. So a lot of people had asked about these new Duralast 100 tooths, and surprisingly enough, for being cheaper than the Harbor Freight Icon, I believe some people may like this as the 100 tooth and have had good experiences, but all that anvil play and the way it grinds just doesn't give me a real solid feeling. But really, you know, I certainly have had kind of cheaper ratchets like this that really just end up holding up. Just is a shame that AutoZone really didn't stick with just trying to have really, you know, set themselves apart on the ratchets, because now they're kind of more like everybody else, chasing the tooth count. It's kind of like battery voltage and cordless tools. It's whatever numbers they think they can sell you more tools for. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.